started. I'm sure that the 8th student who is not here yet should be here momentarily, and we do have a documentary to show in a little bit of time. The very first thing I would like to say to all of you who are here, and even to those who weren't here who supported this trip, the very first thing to say to you is thank you, thank you, thank you so much for supporting the trip with these students. Thank you. So let's start there. So the program today we're going to have for you today is going to be, I'm going to briefly introduce the students that we have. Then I will be playing a short documentary. There's actually going to be a full-length documentary that I should have done this summer. I'm not sure whether that's going to be 60 or 30 yet, but I hope to get that on KDIE and KQED locally here in Northern California, and perhaps out to a national audience through NETA. So that's coming. What you'll see today is a shorter version of that, about 10 minutes long. And then each of the students will come up and just tell you briefly about the trip that they went on, and everything they did, what they saw and learned, the experiences they had, what they took away from it. And then there'll be a chance for you to just ask questions of them. When they had the town hall a couple weeks back, I think a lot of people said, oh, you know, I really want to talk to those students and I want to hear. This is your chance to do that. So that's the program we'll have today. I have to just go back a minute and talk just really quickly about how this all came together. About 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks before the March for Our Lives in Washington, D.C., nationally, I got an email from Paula Bertram, and she said, Sean, do you think we could get some students, to find some students who would like to go to Washington, D.C. and go to the March for Our Lives? And I said, well, that's probably the easy part, but yeah, we can do that. And then I thought, oh my gosh, what did I just say? Because here we are, 2.5 weeks out, we don't have the students identified, we don't have flights, we don't have anywhere to stay, we don't have any money to do it, we don't have all the things. And then I heard from Vera Nicholas and Katie Peak and a few other people, and they're like, look, just if you believe that you can get this to happen, we will help you in every way that we can, and just let's do this. And I thought, okay, we have to do this. And so then I took a step back after saying that, and I realized that our community has actually experienced gun violence at one of our schools. And in fact, my own son experienced that, the loss of his principal during the school day when he was in 2nd grade here at Chanel School. And I'm friends with a lot of the staff and families and students that were there that day. And I became very concerned that doing this the wrong way, or doing this in a way that was in any way going to bring back those feelings of that day, of February 2nd, 2011, a day I'll never forget, I was really worried. So I had to take a step back and talk to people who were involved in that, who were there that day, and the counselors who helped the students, and say, is this something we can do? Is this something we should do? How should we go about it? And unanimously I was told, if you find the right students who engage with this topic, this can be nothing but a positive, and you should do it. And just make sure that you find students who are committed to the cause and who are going to really take this experience seriously. And with that, I'd like to say I am so fortunate. We had 12 students apply, and we had raised enough money for 8 students to go. And the 8 students that you see here today, well, 7 and the 8th is on her way, are some of the most amazing people. Forget students, forget young adults, they are some of the most amazing people I've had the pleasure of hanging out with for any period of time. I'm going to briefly introduce them to you, and I can't see them through the screen, so I'm going to give you their names, and they'll stand up when I say their names. So I don't have to pull the screen up and down. So we have Ashlyn Glancy. Annika Schmidt. My son, Everett Frame. William Zachary. Taylor Summers. Kaya Mamori. And last but certainly not least, we have Annabelle McGuire. And of course, not here, For one, if you've watched TV in the last couple weeks, you've seen both Ashlyn and Lauren making quite a splash, and of course Annika did on the day of the trip. These students, and rightfully so, have become sort of very progressive celebrities in their own right, and but only because, really, when you talk to them, you realize they know what they're talking about. You know, whenever I talk to people who are on the, quote, other side of this issue, they'll say, like, oh, those kids, you know, they eat Tide Pods, and, you know. Without remembering that, you know, adults do stupid things too. So, you know, they've rightfully become celebrities in their own right. We've got a little bit of business to do here before we go. Things I should remind you about what's going on. First of all, the students here have a Young Progressive sign-up list. So as they do actions, they want to be able to get, you know, to be able to notify you so you can come out and join them on the activities they're doing. So make sure you sign up on their list if you're interested in that. Of course, you can register to vote while you're here, and if you haven't registered for a while, everybody tells me your signature may not be, it's in the back of the room, your signature may not be valid anymore. So if you registered 20 years ago and you vote by mail, there's a very reasonable chance that your vote is not being counted. So it's a good idea, if you haven't registered for a while, re-register. Make sure that your vote counts. This is going to be an important election season, and I think everybody in this room's vote needs to count if we're going to see some change.
Absolutely.
There's a Callaway sign-up going around, so if you haven't seen that, it will be circulating. Callaway is a door-knocking campaign to get out Democrats who voted in the general election the presidential year, but didn't vote in the off-year campaigns. We want to make sure every last Democrat gets out and votes. Callaway is literally, you just go to talk to friendly people and reminding them, getting them to actually do a postcard in their own handwriting that reminds them to get out and vote. So they hold themselves accountable for voting this season. It's a great effort that we're doing in our community. Our May meeting, 2 weeks from today, will be May 6th. You know, we normally meet on the second Sunday, but the second Sunday of May is Mother's Day. And in honor of our mothers, we will be meeting a week early on May 6th. And our meeting will be a get out the vote effort. So we'll be doing postcards, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to not be our standard meeting where somebody stands up here and talks, or we have presentations. We're going to have activities and a lot of things to do to get things ready for the primary election that's coming right up. So with that, I think I'd like to start the documentary. Oh yes, and Maureen, thank you Maureen, was the last thing on my list I forgot. There will be a donation basket going around. Those donations are for our event. Everything that El Dorado Progressives does in our community. It covers our meeting costs, it covers the actions that we do in the community. It allows us to rent rooms like this, for example, to have an ongoing insurance policy and just keep the lights on, essentially. We don't have a huge budget every year, but it's 100% local donor supported. So if you see the basket come by and you could throw a little money in there, that'd be great. And I just saw that Lauren made it here. There she is. I'm sure you recognize her from her media appearances. And now, in just a moment, I'll start the documentary, and then we will get to hear from our students.
All major movements have been led by kids. Alexander Hamilton was 19.
This is really the first time I've had a chance to be part of a movement to really make a change, a big change that needs to happen.
We have to do something about this as it affects us.
We grew up, with all these school shootings. Our generation is gonna have better gun control. People in Congress right now aren't doing a thing. They're all bought off by the NRA.
People are the government. The government is us, people that make a difference, that do something or try to do something.
We're not trying to take away all guns. We're trying to stop these mass shootings from happening. We don't want assault weapons, weapons of war in the hands of civilians.
We're not trying to change something just because of the mass shootings. We're trying to change it in general. Young people can do everything. We are the future.
It's ridiculous that we have to fight for our right to be safe. It's not political, it's not right or left, it's life and death.
I am not an advocate for frequent changes in laws and constitutions.
But laws and institutions must go hand in hand with the progress of the human mind.
As that becomes more developed, more enlightened, as new discoveries are made, new truths discovered, and manners and opinions change.
With the change of circumstances, intuitions must advance also to keep pace with the times.
We might as well require a man to wear still the coat which fitted him when he was a boy, as civilized society to remain ever under the regimen of their barbarous ancestors.
It's pretty much the entire argument right there.
The Second Amendment was written by people who owned other people. And moving forward in time, we're never going to advance if we don't change our laws.
A big thing was meeting Congressman's legislative aide. That was kind of a big turning point in the trip, just kind of realizing that I'm here, I'm talking to, a professional talking about this stuff. Yeah, I feel that, I have, better viewpoints, better opinions than, this guy that's twice my age.
We walked in and he literally looked at us and was like, "Why are you trying to take people's rights away?" And it was just, really? That's what you're gonna open this with? Like, we're a bunch of high school kids who just wanna have a discussion with you about a topic and you're gonna open with that? Like, why are you trying to kill my friends?
I knew that there was a chance of him not agreeing with us, like there's always that chance. But just being able to get in there and say exactly what we wanted to say and make him listen was amazing.
I think it went pretty well for us, not for him. Like, it felt like we scared him.
They were coming up with problems, but they weren't thinking of solutions to those problems.
We did have a dialogue. It wasn't just us asking questions and him answering. He embodied the other side, and I don't mean in a political sense, but I mean on this issue. He admitted that there is no way to solve this problem. So why should we even try?
It's kind of frustrating, at least for me, I'm still part of his district and still part of the community,
Someone who's unwilling to budge at all on his stance of guns and saying that everything is blamed on crazy people, I don't want him representing me. That's how it is.
He needs to change because we're gonna vote him out.
The whole march was just kind of, a blow in the face of just like, whoa, this is really happening in our country and, something needs to change now or it's never going to.
It didn't really hit me like the weight of what we were doing until we were at the march and we were listening to the speeches of these survivors of various forms of gun violence, and we were listening to them talk about what we can do.
Seeing that made me really think that we can do this.
It makes me feel really powerful, like we actually have power in this movement.
I first started crying when we sang happy birthday to one of the Parkland victims who had died. And that was his birthday. Like, March 24th was his birthday. He would have been turning 18 years old. Having a crowd of 850,000 people singing happy birthday to a kid who never got to live to be 18. Like, I think that moment was where it really hit you. Like, these are kids and their lives are ending before they really have a chance to live.
Once I saw all the people there and how emotional they were getting, it really just invigorated me with like this charge that we can make a change and that we will be voting soon. And if they don't make a change, they're out of here.
They can't say anything to me that's gonna make me change my mind about what I have learned and what I've seen these past couple of days, and that we're gonna beat them.
Before, I knew we needed better gun control, but I wasn't sure how exactly to achieve that. And by being with these other 7 people and by talking to people and by hearing these speeches, I realized it's so easy if people were just willing to give up a little.
It kind of changed my outlook on what I want to do with my life and how I could be, and all of us could be, ones to make differences.
I don't feel represented. I don't feel like they really care about what the people want. Realizing that, I just kind of thought to myself, I could do a better job than this. This is something that I could see myself doing. Like, I could see myself helping other people and representing their voices and really what they care about.
It feels honestly amazing, like we have changed the course of history.
This is This is the crest of our generation, a point where we can, all of our energy and our views come together at one point.
We can actually make a difference, and as long as we keep trying and keep fighting, that there's nothing holding us back.
It's gratifying, it's humbling, and it really does mean something. You feel like you've done something.
Those who aren't taking part of it and those who aren't active are choosing death. That's the other opposite side of the issue.
Keep going. Don't let other people who have no actual defense in their beliefs stop you. Know that you're in the right, and no matter how much money the NRA or any other corporation throws at the politicians, our voices can't be stopped.
They're scared of our movement, our commitment to a change, a reasonable change. They're only harming themselves, because eventually things are going to change. I think this march has proved that.
This march is not the end of our movement, it's the beginning of it. We're never going away.
We have to take action if we want to see things change, or else it will be us next.
And we will vote. That's assured. This coming year, we're going to see a difference in the way things happen and work around here.
I don't want my kids to experience the same stuff we have to experience. I don't want my kids to have to go through, marching for their lives.
Time won't stop, so gonna get on the ride. Twisting and turning through life. No matter how rough it gets, I'll get by. Home moves with me where I roam. It's in every dream I make my own. I'm never alone. I know that every day will always bring me something new.
I did forget one person who I should not have forgotten, that Vera Nicholas introduced me to Barbara Peterson. And without Barbara Peterson, I can tell you this trip would not have happened. She figured out the airfare. She got us places to stay in Bethesda that were close to the metro line, so we could get right into DC easily, in and out. She arranged so much of what we did there, and whenever we were tired, Barbara was like, "Oh, we could do one more thing." Right? Like, yeah. So I have to say that she's not here today, but my gosh, like what an amazing person. I have to really say that because we literally after the march we went to the National Gallery because the march wasn't enough in one day. So at any rate, at this point, I'd really like to take the opportunity to bring each of the students up and just allow them to talk a little bit about their experiences. So I'm going to raise the screen. And I know you're thinking, which end of the table is he going to start at? We're going to start in the middle. So, there you go. Perfect. Thank you, Taylor. This is Taylor Summers. I'll let him introduce himself.
Yes, I'm Taylor Summers. I'm a senior at Charter Connections Academy, one of the charter schools. And I'd like to say when I first heard about this trip, we got to hear about everything that we were going to do. We were going to go important places, see important sights, and speak to important people. But the most important reason, the reason that we all went on this trip was the march. And we can't forget that. You see, this march is so important that you can't even state how important it is. That's this could turn out to be the main thing of our generation. I mean, we're acting for change. This is an issue that each of us cares about. In our schools, it's not just the schools that are shot up that are, they're affected by this issue. I see my school and I see my schoolmates, and we live in fear, trepidation. I mean, we're in our American government class, and there's a maintenance man outside, and like the school, we ask the teacher, who is that guy? And they have to go over the windows and like verify it. It's fear, and it's cancerous, and it's at the heart of everything. And I don't like living in this kind of fear, and that's why I decided to go on this trip. And I mean, throughout American history, there have always been issues like this, starting back from the very birth of our nation. But this one is unique because so many people are against it. I mean, it sickens me that there are sides, politically, that disagree with us and like scowl at the students for doing this. I mean, gun control is one of the reasons, one of the ways that we can control this, but we aren't marching against gun control, we're marching against gun violence and for our lives. And you can't just walk up to a student and say, I don't agree with you, that's a bad thing. That's splitting us up politically, and it's not okay. This should not be a political issue. When we alienate people and they hate us, it becomes like, you're ashamed to tell your viewpoints on this issue, and that makes me sad. Everyone should be working together on this issue. I mean, it's vital. Who could possibly be against making our schools safer, whatever way it is? So I don't want to focus on one particular aspect. I want to focus on all of it. Any item, any one person or one event that could make schools safer. And we can't pass one law. We can't change the education system at all if we are not standing together as a nation. So there was 850,000 of us there, and we were standing in solidarity. And we were there, and we wanted to make a change. Throughout U.S. history, it's never one side politically against another side politically. There's the institution and the retribution. We are the retribution, and we're coming to make a change. And that's what we're going to do. We're not going to give up. We're not going to opt out for the home shopping network. We're going to keep going until we see things getting done. And there was an energy, like a wave. I've likened to that before in my writings, but there's nothing like it, just being there, moving forward, and it didn't stop with the march. Look at us now. Look at the things each and every one of us are doing. It's never going to stop until we see change in this issue. And I just hope that eventually everyone can get along and understand that this isn't a political issue. It's a life or death issue. Thank you very much.
And I know what you're thinking, man, that's a tough act to follow. But each one of these students has that kind of passion. And Kaya was actually our youngest student that went on the trip. And I'd like you to come up next. Come on, Kaya. A little heavy, but I can do it. Or I could just do that, too. No podium required. You're tall.
Hi, I'm Kaya Mamari. I'm an 8th grader at Cedar Springs Waldorf School. And when I heard about this trip, my mom was telling it to my older sisters. Because previously it was supposed to be like a high school trip for high schoolers, because it all started with the high school shootings that have been happening. And I was like, I really want to go. Can you email them or figure out if I can go on this trip? Because this would be something that I would love to do and love to learn more about it. And so they said I could go, and they said I could write an essay, and I got in. And going on the trip was an amazing experience. Overall, meeting new people, everyone was so nice. I mean, they were nice, but Chris Tudor, who we met with, had a very different point of view than we did. And that meeting was an amazing experience. When we first walked in there, what the interview said, or the documentary, we walked in there and the first thing he said was, "Why are you trying to take away our rights?" And just opening something up with that statement is a big thing to say. And so it was a big thing to hear. And we definitely got him speechless a few times, and he was very nervous. Probably went through about like 3 or 4 water bottles. Who knows? But on the trip, like at the march, this whole movement started with school shootings and like how teenagers were dying and getting killed and like how we needed to stop it. But listening to people talk, it's not just schools, it's everywhere. Yeah, on the streets and stores, banks, everywhere is gun violence happening all around the world. And I'm not just doing this for schools now, it's to help everyone, not just teenagers, adults, anyone who's like walking on the street and scared. Like no one should have to be scared to walk on the street by themselves thinking that, oh, is this person following me? Do they have a gun? Are they gonna do something? Like you just don't know anymore. And that's really why I wanted to go on the trip, to help people, everyone, not have to be afraid. And going to the school I go to now, there's probably maybe like 100, 150 kids at my school. And you know everyone. So if you see someone new on the campus, you know they're a stranger, and you go ask a teacher and be like, hey, who is this? And they usually know who it is. And going to high school next year, I'm scared. Like, I'm not gonna know everyone. You'll know like your group of people who you're friends with, maybe people who you like are in class with. But if there's a stranger on your school campus, you don't know who it is. And you don't know what they're gonna do, if they're there to just look at the school, like, you never know. And that's a big part of it for me. But overall, like, something needs to change. And I feel like everyone has different views on how they need to change things. I mean, everyone, yeah, there's tons of different opinions, but we have to change something. And this is just the beginning of this revolution. And yeah, I think that we're all just trying to make something better and try not to be scared in schools and on the street. And that's why I did all of this. So yeah.
That's a great point that you made. Like if you watched it, I don't know how many of you watched the Washington D.C. march on TV, but it was really great how they tied in gun violence not just at schools but in communities to the whole conversation, and I think that was a real high point for me. So Ashlyn,
Why are you staring me down?
I think you should be next.
Okay.
Ashlyn Lindsay.
Okay, my name's Ashlyn Glancy. I'm a freshman at Oak Ridge High School.
Ashlyn, get closer to the mic.
Sorry. Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yeah. Better.
Okay, Ashlyn Glancy. I'm a freshman at Oak Ridge High School. I got involved with this because my mom saw it on Facebook and was like, why not? I don't even know if she thought I was going to wind up going, but I wrote the essay and turned it in. I didn't really think I was going to wind up getting to go because I'm one of the lucky few that doesn't have a personal connection to gun violence too close to home. And everything has been on the news or just stuff that's affected me secondhand. But I wound up going, and yeah, it was a lot. When you get there and you think about like, well, first of all, just being in DC, and anyone who goes there will tell you like the aura and the vibe of DC is just like this. We can change the world sort of thing. Everyone's doing their own thing, and Barbara was telling us that it's like, oh, what master's degree are you working on? And it's just being in DC, and then you're walking around, you see all these buildings, and then going to go to Tom McClintock's office and talking to him, and you're like, what are you doing in office? Like, you don't know what you're doing. Yeah, because when we talked about the fact that we left him speechless, honestly, he went through so much water and so many mints, and just taking out of his pockets, it was awesome. Yeah. And then the march. I've been like trying to explain the march, and like when you talk to different people and when you write it down, but you just can't explain what it was really like, what it was really like to be there. And you see these people, the shooting in Parkland happened the day before, I'm in youth and government, the day before our large youth and government campus, or competition sort of thing, convention, that's the word. And I just remember like saying it to my friend, I was like, oh, we're not going to complain about going through security tomorrow, because we have really heavy security there and it's annoying. But then when you see this happen and these are these kids that are the same age as you, like, you're not going to complain when they want you to take off your backpack and go through the metal detector. But anyway, going back to the march, like just being there and you see these people, and I've been watching the interviews and kind of following the story of like these kids, and they're our age, like there's nothing, the kids who, it's the freshman building. I'm a freshman. I mean, we don't have a freshman building at my school, but we are kind of in an area, and you know, we have our own little world over there. So there's nothing stopping it from being us, and that's like the biggest thing for me is that Parkland happened, you know, Sandy Hook happened, Great Mills happened. So many schools have experienced gun violence at home, and there's nothing stopping from Oak Ridge being the next one. Yeah, and like we just had a fire drill, or not a drill, it was unplanned. The fire alarm went off, and I was in the cafeteria at the time, and one of the adults was like, "Nobody move," because that's what you think is going to happen, because that's how Parkland started. Yeah, so it was this intoxicating, like you see these people and they're making the biggest change they possibly can, and there's no reason why you can't bring it home. And so we brought it home and we brainstormed, and we put together the town hall, and you know, now we're here today. Yeah, and like as everyone has said, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, but that was not the biggest part of this movement. That was the jumping off point, and that's inspired us in our little corner of the world to start making the change that we want to see. And so, yeah. Yeah.
And they thought they wouldn't be able to fill 5 minutes. So William Zachary is our next speaker. He's a sophomore right here in Placerville at Dorado High School. You can raise that up if you need to.
Hi. Alright. Hi, I'm Will Zachary. I'm a sophomore at Dorado High School. So I'm kind of just going to start off with a little story. So the other day, I had to leave school early, and I was walking by myself through the quad, and I saw a guy with a briefcase. And usually, like I would say a year or two ago, I would feel, oh, this guy's just walking, he's fine, but I felt uneasy. And I feel like we as students shouldn't have to feel uneasy if we see some guy with a briefcase, you know, in our school, or see a student with a bigger backpack, or, you know, we shouldn't have to feel uneasy at school ever just because we're trying to gain an education and not, you know, live our lives in fear. And so, kind of starting back to the start of the march, how I kind of got to go on that was my aunt is part of the Dorado Progressives, and she emailed me saying, you need to write this essay right now, you need to get this done. And I had my mom pressing me about it. I was like, all right, I'll do it. I'm never going to be able to go. And, you know, this is, you know, so many people are going to sign up. And then next thing I know, I got an email saying, all right, you're going to be going on the trip and stuff. You know, meet us on Monday. And then next week I'm in D.C. or, you know, sitting in a crowd of 850,000 people. And just to explain how crowded it was at the march, about halfway through the march, I went to the bathroom, which is probably 100 yards away from where we were sitting. It took me 45 minutes to walk through the crowd. 45 minutes just to walk, you know, excuse me. Yeah, the march was kind of an eye-opening experience. We had a moment of silence for about when Emily Gonzalez was speaking, and I think it was a couple minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes, 6 minutes.
It was 6 from when she started talking.
Yeah, so it was like 4 minutes, probably around 4 minutes, and it was amazing because my class of like 30 students can never get that quiet, but 850,000 people, you could hear a pin drop, you know. So it was kind of crazy how even people our age just organized this entire thing. And I think one of the coolest parts of it was we got to meet one of the key organizers of the event, one of the adult organizers. We ended up missing some of the Parkland students about like 15 minutes. So, but we went from the legislative aide who was, super right Republican, who was saying we don't have a solution, to a guy who was probably one of the most amazing speakers I've ever heard. Just talking to us right there, I was like, oh my God, this guy knows so much. Yeah, so I think it's kind of amazing how we're starting this change as 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, and doing more things than a lot of adults can do. And so yeah.
Thanks, Will. That's great. So our next student was already sort of politically woke when she got to go on the trip. I think she was already involved with Young Democrats and other organizations, and wrote a fantastic essay. And as you've seen, I think she, being one of the older, if not the oldest student on the trip, really felt like she had a transformative moment on that trip. And I think you saw that in the documentary. So Annika, would you like to come up?
Yeah. Yeah. So my name is Annika Schmidt, and I'm a 12th grader at El Dorado High School. I heard about this trip through my dad, who was already involved with the Democratic Party, running for EID Board of Directors, and he got an email. I was in Disneyland 2 weeks before the trip, and on the train ride back, I get a text from him saying, check your email, you could be able to go to Washington, D.C. To participate in the March for Our Lives. So I checked my email, and on the way back home from Disneyland, on the train, I wrote an essay. And I was just like, I don't know what to say, here you go, let's just write this essay, I need to go downstairs, I can't talk to anyone. And I got home, and like 2 days later, you get an email, and it's like, you're going! And I didn't even realize, like, at that point, it just was like, what is happening? Like, I didn't even, I feel like everybody else can kind of relate just how quickly it happened. And then the next week, we were on a plane to Washington, D.C. But I think when the trip finally hit me, it was at the march, and just seeing the amount of people there and how many people are behind us and what we're doing, because coming from a town that's definitely more right-leaning, even my peers were like, why are you going to the March for Our Lives? Like Chris Tudor said, why are you trying to take our rights away? Like, that's not what we're trying to do. I think that's the most misconstrued thing about this entire movement, is that we're not trying to take away people's rights. We're trying to be safe. Like, we have our own right to our lives, and like the Second Amendment, that's great, like you protect yourself, but we have to be able to have our say in it too, and be able to protect ourselves. But definitely with going along with Chris Tudor and that entire thing, that was kind of interesting to be a part of. But then immediately going to Michael Stolnick, like Will said, he was the most amazing speaker. Like, I almost started tearing up, especially going from such a kind of, it brought us all down meeting with Chris, I feel, and then after meeting with Michael, we all felt like, wow, we can really do this, we're doing the right thing. And I think it was just like a really life-changing moment, that we're going through this for the right reasons, and we can make a difference, and we have, including the Washington, D.C. March, and like everyone else, everyone's behind us on this, and we're in the right, and nobody can tell us different.
next student to come up is my son, Everett Frame. And I'll tell you a little story about Everett. So when Everett found out about this, come on, it's okay, you just clear. I won't be too, he's like, oh no, and Dad starts talking. And he starts I just will say this, when Everett found out about the trip, he said to me, I don't want to apply if you're gonna give me a better chance at getting on the trip than somebody else. He said, I don't want to take the spot from somebody else who really deserves it. And when we scored all the essays, he came out 9th, and there was one other person who couldn't go. And had it not been for that, he wouldn't have gone. And I have to say, like, I was sitting there going, oh, this is going to be a tough conversation when I get home. All right, so here's Everett.
I'm Everett Frame. I'm a freshman at Dorado High School. He basically took my opener. All right, so I'm just gonna segue into the march. So going to DC, when I really thought that we were actually making a change was when we went to the monument and saw where other people stood, architects for change, other people like Martin Luther King Jr., who stood upon the Lincoln Memorial and talked to so many people. Feels crazy that we were a part of something like that. The march itself was really emotional. I personally teared up myself. And everything's really been said before. It's like really awkward.
Talk about why it's personal for you. I mean, how it affected you personally. I mean, when we were in the... And I know it gets harder and harder for each one of you to come up now, but next up is Annabelle McGuire. You already asked me this up front, so.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to be able to lower it.
Is that good?
Yeah, can you guys hear me? Yeah? Okay. Little closer?
Yeah.
That's good? Okay. So I'm Annabelle McGuire. I'm a freshman at Dorado High School. And my mom, she's part of the progressives and she's like super social, so she always kind of knows what's going on. And so she told me and my sister about it, and my sister couldn't do it, but I was like, yeah, I might as well try. Like, I doubt I'll get in, but I'll do it. And so I did my essay, and it was supposed to be like 400 words, and it was like 800 when I first did it. So that took a lot of editing, but I figured it out, and I sent it in, and I was like, well, I probably won't get an email back, really unlikely. And then on Friday, I got an email, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got in. And I was like kind of stunned, and I was like Annika was saying, not really sure what was happening. And then I was like, I didn't really read the whole email. I should probably check that I actually got in, not just thanking me to sign up or anything. So then I checked again, and then I was actually in, and I was freaking out, and then I called my parents and called my sister, and it was just such an amazing thing to realize that all of this tragedy that had happened, it had led to something so big. And so nationally and even internationally, other countries are standing up for us. And when I got to DC and we were going and seeing all these sites, it was just crazy. I had never been, and it was all of this history was around us, and it just felt right that we were doing this. We all know we're in the right. These people who are arguing with us, they really have nothing. They don't have a substantial argument.
Yeah.
And so we talked with our legislative aide, which a lot of people talked about, but I just remember being is this guy serious? This is actually what he believes? This is what Tom McClintock believes? And I just remember going out of there and I was like, well, I mean, we were able to talk with him, which I was glad about. It wasn't like we were asking questions and he was just saying answers to appease us or anything, so that was good. But I was just like, I don't want him representing us. Like, and then Sean had told us how we might be able to go meet the person who had planned the whole march, and I wasn't really sure what that meant exactly. But when we got there and we were able to meet him, it was honestly so amazing. So it was such a crazy contrast. This Chris Tudor, who we talked with from Tom McClintock's office, he pretty much told us there was nothing we could do to solve this problem, so like, why were we even trying? And then Michael came in and he was like, yeah, you guys are the generation of change. I've been fighting this issue for a long time, but this is when it's going to change. This is the turning point. And it was just listening to him, it sounded like I was like listening to Martin Luther King or something. He was so well spoken, and it was just like, I felt like I was watching like a movie or something. He just didn't stutter once. He was just so, he felt like he was right. He knew what he was saying. And getting up for the march, and we were walking, and all of these people were with us, and we are all supporting each other. We are all together to save people, because it really isn't a political issue. Everyone wants to save kids, and people have asked me why I'm interested in this, and it's to me, it's like, why wouldn't I be interested when it could have been me at any of these shootings? Not even school shootings, just mass shootings in general. Why do 58 people need to die, or 20 kids need to be killed? Why does that need to happen for us to make a stand? It's been too long that this has gone unchecked, and we're the generation of change, and we're not going to stop. Our teachers, our politicians, and they're thinking, oh, they're kids, it's just a phase, right? Yeah. And they're like, oh, they'll get over it, but we're not going to get over it. Yeah.
And last but certainly not least, Lauren Tilley.
Hi, I'm Lauren Tilley. I'm a junior at Oak Ridge. First, I'd like to apologize for being late. I was sitting in the ER for 3 hours. But this March, this whole thing started for me. I actually heard about this essay contest. My best friend called me at school one day. We were at break, and she's like, I have the perfect opportunity for you. And I was like, all right, what is it? And she hands me the paper, and her Spanish teacher, I guess, had told one of their classes about it, and it was just kind of like a word to mouth thing. And she's like, you have to do this, you'd be perfect for this. And so I applied. And for me, this is a topic that's very personal to me. Back in October, my mom was actually a survivor of the Las Vegas shooting. Oh. I remember, I was home alone at the time, sitting in bed with my dog, and getting that call at 11:30 at night, and it was just my mom, and she was very calm, but she was telling me I don't want you to hear this on the news later and freak out about it, but this is what happened. We're safe, but it happened. And I remember I spent the day after that, I stayed home from school with my mom, and just sitting there with her, and my 2 aunts were there too, and listening to their stories and how close they were, and they literally had to run for their lives. And so that's a very personal topic for me, and I took a big stance on it when I was in youth in government this year with Ashlyn, ran a whole campaign on it, got a lot of backlash, but coming to this group and meeting these 7 other amazing kids and all these amazing people, every single person who donated to allow us to go on this trip, and every person we met in DC, and to all the kids out there who are organizing every day about this issue, we cannot thank everyone enough, because in reality, we wouldn't be here. It's terrible that this tragedy is what it took in order for this issue to get a national spotlight, but we couldn't be more thankful that it's finally being talked about. We are the generation that grew up learning how to do school shooter drills. We learned in kindergarten that if you're in a bathroom, you stand up on the toilet seat so they can't see your legs, but you duck low enough that they can't see you over the top. And just like being there, being in DC, and every single person we met, except for Chris, it was just amazing. We talked to all these adults, and I remember sitting on the subway with this guy who had taken us up to a roof of a building, and he was talking to us here, take my car keys, take them now, you guys are ready. I'll give you the keys to my house, you guys just come and take over, you can have my job, your generation is ready for this. And just hearing all these adults who were in support of what we were doing, and then meeting all these other kids, and I have 7 new best friends, and that feeling, it makes you feel unstoppable. And the march was just someone said it earlier, you can't put that into words. As much as I've tried to describe to people what that meant to us, that feeling of sitting there and standing in a crowd of over 850,000 other people who are all there for the same reason, all there because we want to live another day, that feeling, you can't put in words. And I remember, you heard it in the documentary, the first time I started crying was when we sang Happy Birthday to Nicholas Dalwart. And for me, I actually went home after that march and I looked him up because I knew he was a victim, but I didn't really know that much about him, and it felt wrong. And he was a 17-year-old boy who was a swimmer, who was going to college for swim, blonde hair, blue eyes, and I kept thinking of my brother. My siblings and I all grew up swimming. We're all blonde hair, blue eyes. My brother is 19 years old. And for me, just knowing that these kids, they had aspirations, they had goals, and then all those kids who got up there, and there were 11-year-olds on stage speaking. 11-year-olds on stage speaking about the gun violence they face every day, and that's wrong. Yes, these kids are amazing, they are so well spoken, and we should give them all props for that, but they shouldn't have to be up there. To have an 11-year-old have to get up there and speak about why she doesn't want to get shot at? Seriously? That's what our society has come to?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I think the important thing is, like we've said, this wasn't the end, this wasn't the big moment's still coming, and we just gotta keep working and doing everything we can. It's why we had the town hall, it's why we're still gonna plan more events and do everything we can. And it starts right here in our own district, and I think that's something we really realize when we talk to Chris, is if we wanna see change, it's not gonna happen unless we take action. And that means here in our own district, in our own homes, our own communities, and making sure that our friends and family are safe and that we're willing to fight. And that's it.
One of my favorite moments of being in the office with Chris Tudor and the 8 of them was, I think there was a moment about 20 minutes in where they all realized that they had the upper hand. And he realized it too. And that was a fantastic moment. And he actually said to them, I couldn't believe he said it. He said, well, if you don't like what my boss believes and stands for, you need to vote him out. And they were all like, okay, yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting us know. That's the solution. All right, great, we'll do that. So now this is your chance to really ask the students questions. They did their best to give you a quick presentation of their trip. But I'm sure you have questions for them, and I'm sure they'd love to answer them. So I'm going to bring this microphone over there, and they already have one on the table, and then you can ask questions of them individually or as a group, however you want to do it.
I have questions.
Just stand up if you have a question, that way they can.
What else did you see while you were in DC? What were some of the monuments, the buildings, the museums,
Oh, okay. So the first night we were there, we went to the Lincoln Memorial and the Jefferson Memorial, and the World War II, Vietnam. We passed it was Vietnam. And then Friday we went to the Supreme Court, and we got a really cool tour of the Capitol from McClintock staff. So that was really nice. We got to go onto the speaker balcony and all those different things. Yeah, I had a house for Saturday. After the march, we went to the National Gallery of Art. And then Sunday, we really didn't do all that much, but we got to see a lot of cool things.
Go ahead. Oh, there's one behind you, and then, yeah.
Hi.
There you go. Then you're next.
I have a question. So, you guys are all amazing, obviously. I mean, I think everybody here is so impressed with what we've heard today. And one of my thoughts was, this is so important, but how are you going to get everyone in your age group 18 and above to go out and vote? Because that is what's going to make a huge change. Obviously, your energy is going to do it, but we've got to get people to go out and young people to vote across the country. So I'd like to hear what you have to say about that.
So I think the important thing is voter registration. A lot of people, especially kids our age, don't actually know that you can pre-register to vote in the state of California at the age of 16. We are one of the only states that allow it that young. Other states allow it at 17, but we allow it at 16, which is really special. And so I know, like, the week I came back after that spring break, I actually held a voter registration drive at my school, and we got a lot of students registered, and that was really good. And just, like, getting your friend, like, word to mouth, I think is the most important thing. Like, making kids understand why it matters, and, like, that it could be them next. And just getting the word out, making sure people are aware and informed of how registering to vote works, and that they are registered. And then when it comes time to vote, like making sure they're at the polls.
This gentleman here. There you go.
I was talking to a high school principal here in the county, and I asked how many kids went out on that 17-minute walkout. She said 300. And I thought, wow, that's great. How many kids are at your school? She said 18. And I thought, wow, that's not so cool. What happened to the other kids? Are you having trouble getting other kids involved?
Okay, so we're gonna do it because we have like drastically different turnouts. So on March 14th, we had about 100. Is that right, Lauren? Yeah, we had about 100. Last Friday we had 7. So I was one of the 7.
And that was for college.
Yeah, and that was for Columbine. I don't know what you were saying. Oh, okay, yeah, and they had a completely different experience. Oh, and our school's like 3,000.
On the first march, we had, what, 250 people out of 1,200?
1,000.
Or 1,000. So I think a big reason in our school is the majority of our school are very Republican and very pro-gun. And actually after the march, they were trying to plan a pro-gun rally at our school. So.
I'm so sorry. Go ahead. Okay, so we had one on Friday too for the Columbine shooting because it was actually the 19th anniversary. And it was a really small group, but I thought personally it was better because a lot of the kids use it as an excuse to get out of class. And having this smaller group, we all cared about the issue. And it was something we truly felt needed to change. And so we were all there supporting each other. And I think with people who support each other at one walkout, there'll be more people coming if they see that we're all there, we all have the same opinion, we're just trying to save people's lives.
Yeah, and I realized I forgot to answer part of the question. I think like one of the reasons we had such low turnout on Friday was our principal had threatened us with detention, and so a lot of my friends who I know are politically active chose not to walk out, and that was obviously disappointing, but to be honest, nothing came of it because there's only 7 of us, and they didn't even care, so it just looked like we were ditching class.
And also a big reason why there wasn't a huge turnout is I feel that at our school, because it's such a highly Republican school, there's a lot of kids who are scared to walk out because they think they will get, kind of, hassled about their views, and so they just choose not to have views, even though they might, be completely against guns. They don't want to have their friends, hassle them about that. So.
I had a personal experience with someone like saying, "Oh, you're a liberal," like. really? And it's kind of like, yeah, I am. Thanks. It's pretty great.
I'm wondering what you all think of the walk up to versus walk out. You guys posed that to the candidates, and I found it interesting that pretty much none of them knew what it was. So what do you have to say about that?
So I actually didn't know about it because they didn't push it at Oak Ridge very much, but they pushed it at my sister's middle school. Honestly, I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think that teenagers tend to be portrayed as though they're mean, they're bullies, and all this stuff, and all these school shooters, they were just bullied. Like, that's the problem. They were just bullied. And I really don't think, or at least in my experience, and in my school, I really don't think it's that bad. And so I don't really buy into the narrative that, oh, all these kids, oh, if Nicholas Cruz, if he had had a couple friends, if someone had come up to him and said hi, then he wouldn't have killed those 17 people. Because, you know, there's narratives that are coming across about people who tried to go up to him, and he was abusive towards them. And I think that it's a easy diversion from walking out, and it's very easy for the Republicans specifically to stand on that and be like, oh, well, this is the actual problem.
And I wanted to add something to what Ashlyn said. I mean, obviously we need to help with the bullying situation because it is a part of some of the school shootings that have been happening. But I think the way they're like putting it out there, it's like putting the victims as that they're the problem. It's like, oh, well, they were bullying him. Like, it's not his fault. They should have helped him more. And they're trying to split up and like make them look like they were the problem instead of the person who shot 17 students.
Yeah, just giving a slightly different viewpoint there, you know, I mean, the walk-ups, I thought, you know, I mean, I participated in both our schools, walk-up and walk-out, and I feel that the walk-ups aren't a bad thing because I feel that they achieve the same effect as the walk-out, but we are actually helping people, we are doing something. I mean, maybe bullying doesn't play a very big part in it, but nobody here can honestly tell me that bullying doesn't at least play a little part of it. Mm-hmm. And just making friends, I mean, if you walk up to somebody and introduce yourself and you're walking up, I guess, they're going to like you and maybe they're going to get involved in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. And that's a way to get more people involved and help a little bit, and you're actually doing something. So I do support the walk-ups in my school. I think they're a helpful way to go about things.
Really quick, with the walk-up, I think it's a good idea, but it's not solving the problem of, you know, gun violence. I feel like walking out of school has a bigger impact on, I guess, the adults and the teachers and administration, etc. But I also do think the walk-ups is a good way to maybe prevent something, but I feel like it's not the, you know, complete solution to something. You know, some people will say it's the solution. Bullying's not the problem of the gun violence, I don't think.
Maureen?
Hi. Thank you very much for everything you're doing. And one of my questions is, have you gotten any specific reactions from the administration about you going to Washington, D.C.? And if so, what have those reactions been?
Well, at least I know at my school, from hearing from Violet, she's organized a lot of the walkouts. But our administration is pretty supportive of it. We necessarily can't announce it in the bulletin just because it's not a school-sponsored event. But our principal has been working a lot and he's really listening to us. And from all my teachers that I've told, they've been really supportive of it, and they, like the interview that I did after the DC trip, they've been like, send me the link, I want to see it, and just like hear about your experience. So I've gotten some really good reactions from it in my experience, but my teachers, a lot of them are pretty supportive of it.
What school are you at?
I go to El Dorado.
El Dorado.
Yeah.
So I kind of have a different experience. I go to Oak Ridge High School up in El Dorado Hills. And So the night before our town hall, admittedly it was a little bit late, but I actually emailed every single staff member on our Oak Ridge website. Like everyone from the lunch ladies to the janitors to our principal. Like every single person who had a listed email, I emailed to. I got back 3 responses. And I had maybe 3 of my teachers the Monday after at school say, I wish you would have told us sooner, I would have loved to come. But other than that, I got no responses. And I think Ashlyn mentioned earlier, our principal, he was somewhat supportive of the first walkout on March 14th, but the last walkout, he sent out a parent square, which is like how he communicates with the parents. Basically saying anyone who walks out on April 20th will be punished with a detention or a Saturday school, because we cannot promote, like we promote civic engagement, but we cannot promote multiple marches, because it disrupts our daily schedule. And it was kind of just like, okay, but doesn't getting shot at disrupt our daily schedule? And like he wasn't necessarily the warmest when we did, like when I asked him if I could do a voter registration drive either. Had some interesting comments about the Democratic Party then. But it's just like, it's hard because I know a lot of my friends are in support of what's going on, but because of the area we live in and because there's money where we live, there tends to be a larger Republican crowd also. And I have a lot of people who have come up to me with not so nice comments, and like I've even had teachers, one of the teachers who emailed me back was actually talking about how he used to have a rifle team at his school and he wishes he could go back to those days. And I was like, okay, thank you. But yeah, different reactions across the board, I think.
Also on Friday, so I had math, and usually my math teacher is like, he's really supportive of it, but I think he was like, he got upset, and I was like, okay, so I'm gonna be leaving at 12:45 for the walkout, and he was like, okay, well, if you're not back in like 10 minutes, you can't take your test. And I was like, well, can't I come in at lunch? And he was like, no, you can't take it. And I was like, but our principal is in support of it. And he was like, well, I'm not. And I was like, okay. Wow. So I think most of the teachers, like, well, at least some of mine, they're getting annoyed that like we're actually still talking about it. They thought we were going to be like, oh, the march is done, like, never mind, it's not important anymore. But I think they're surprised we still like care about the issue.
Yeah, and going to the teachers at Oak Ridge, I wrote a letter to my health teacher that I walked out of that class, and I'll update you on what she says on Monday. But I got confronted about it in science class by someone who I thought we were friends, not anymore. And my science teacher was like, for the love of God, stop talking about this, you know nothing about it. And it was just kind of like, okay.
Wow.
Questions?
My question is, out of this group, which one is going to run for office first?
We know her now, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is actually more just information. The El Dorado Union High School District has got a new superintendent, and I read the email that on Tuesday is going to be introduced to Union Mine High School in, I think, the drama room, and at 6:30 there's going to be the public are allowed in, and there's going to be public comment and a chance to meet him, and I think it'd be great that our students, our passionate and very articulate students, could be there, and I think that it's important that our new superintendent understands that we consider this a very important issue.
Yeah. Nice.
I've tried to get people to register to vote that are younger, and I've gotten a lot of, we're not political, and it's almost like it's not cool to care. How do you work with that?
Sure. Okay. We get that. We get that. Well, why do you care? We're young. It doesn't affect us. And I feel like a lot of that you just have to be like, all right, you're being crazy, but okay. Because even with my friends, I've had, why are you doing all of this? Like, why do you care? It's not worth it. Like, it doesn't directly affect us. Oh, I'm just not a political person. Well, that's not really an option when it's life or death. So I don't really have any advice on like how to deal with that, but just know that you're like not alone in that, and even us are experiencing that from our peers.
Since I'm very young, before I went on this trip, I knew nothing about politics. But in like the past few weeks, I definitely have learned a lot. And I think by giving them, like telling them that this is a serious situation, like you don't know if you're gonna lose your life at school, like you need to help, like I feel like bringing it to that situation and telling them like there is a chance, like there's always a chance that something bad can happen and we need to help find a way to fix that. And I feel like by voting you can help the people out who aren't doing a good job at helping us fix that problem. So I feel like bringing it back to that and being like there is that chance might help get more voters or something, I don't know.
You know, there's a lot of ignorance in this country, and you know how ignorance is developed? Ignorance is developed when you think that it's not cool to care about the news. Ignorance is developed when you don't watch the news at all and purposely stay behind on current events because it's too depressing or it's above you. That's how there's all these ignorant people, and so you got to tell them the events. Even if they don't know, you got to give them your opinion. You got to tell them the facts, these people, because hopefully they care about something, and hopefully they will. You know, we got hammered in their heads. You know, people can't remain ignorant, blissfully ignorant, not caring about the news. Oh, it's not cool to be involved politically. If you're an American, you should be involved politically. If you ask me, and we need that.
I have a question for our two youngest, because first of all, who of you will be voting in November? So 2, right? 2 of the 8. Okay? 3. Just 2. So for Kaya and Everett and Ashlyn, who are our 3 youngest, if each of you could answer this question, how are you going to sustain this movement until you vote? Because you're a few years away, right? You're 4 years away. What are you going to do? How do you motivate people? Oh yeah, and Annabelle too, yeah.
Okay,
Our 4 youngest.
That has not been something that I've been asked before, so it's like still kind of processing in my brain. Honestly, like I have a lot of older friends who are in high school that I've known from past years or older siblings, and I feel like you can share your opinion, like you should share your opinion. Sometimes it does get rough because there is backlash and there is drama in it, but just talking to them and just speaking out like we're doing now will help keep this movement going and help like keep everything that's happening make a change. And I feel like just keep talking about it, and I feel like that's the best way to sustain until we can get more just more news and more help with it. So yeah.
I just wanted to say that I feel like when you say that kids need to register, vote, and stuff, and that we need to care about government, we need. Going back to the other question, I just want to say that I feel like kids shouldn't have to spend, a lot of their time worrying about that stuff because we are in high school and we're worrying about homework and stuff, and we shouldn't have to worry about what our government's doing and worrying about what's happening in the government. That shouldn't be a huge part of our day, every day.
Back to your question. I think it's really important just to have conversations with people our age or older, because a lot of people don't even know what's going on. Like when I got back to school, some of my teachers were like, "Oh, how was the march?" And the kids, and I was like, "Oh, it was really good." And they're like, "Oh, what march?" And I was like, "How do you not know?" So I think it's just really important, like Taylor was saying, like making sure you're talking to people so they're not ignorant of what's going on, because I think that's one of the problems, probably also why you're having problems registering people to vote, because they're just not aware of what's going on and they don't have enough information to actually vote. And yeah.
Well, okay. So I'm involved in youth and government, and that keeps me pretty politically active, and it's yeah, it's amazing. And then like just connecting with people who are older than you and having those hard conversations that you're not really sure if you want to have, but you start anyway. And then I have these three, and they're always around, and they always want to talk, and they're really amazing people, and so they're going to keep me pretty engaged, I think.
Hold on just a second.
So as I think that we like lose people to like college or they're 18, they can vote already. I think we should like, as we grow older, we should probably try to find kids that are younger than us and keep the ranks going. So when we're gone, we'll have other people here to take our place.
Gentleman here, and then you were right over there, and then Patty back there.
I have an observation, not a question. I now have great-grandchildren, and more coming. Great-great-grandchildren. And I'm glad that you are showing leadership and showing better about our country as you young people stand up. Thank you.
I know that we are talking a lot about what you guys can do to fix the problem, but as someone who was in middle school when Columbine happened, what can we do to help you guys in your movement?
I think the biggest thing is like taking us serious, like listening to us when we talk, and making sure that like you have your friends, making sure that they are listening to us when we talk and they're supporting us in what we do. The biggest thing we can do is, as much as it sucks as kids, we're probably never going to be taken serious unless we have the support of adults behind us.
Right.
Because it's always going to seem like, oh, they're kids, they don't know what they're talking about. Unless we have people behind us saying, no, I agree with them, they're doing the right thing. And I think that was the biggest thing when we met Michael Stolnick, because he is an adult who has been in this issue for a very long time, and listening to him tell us that we're doing the right thing and that he's there whenever we need him. And I think that's the biggest thing. So like when we hold town halls like we did on April 11th, like showing up, asking the right questions, and making sure everyone you know is there. And just being in support of us and like vocal about it and saying, I agree with these kids, they do know what they're doing regardless of how young they may be.
Just a slightly different perspective. I was down taking care of my grandkids in Menlo Park last week, and I went to my grandson's 4th grade class, and there's this pile of signs on the table that looked a lot like the signs I've seen here. I said, what is this? He's 10 years old. He said, well, we're having a walkout tomorrow. 10 years old. We're having a walkout tomorrow. It's the anniversary of Columbine. Oh, wow. Okay. And I said, was it just your class? He said, no, it's 4 through 8. There will be 100 of us. And we will walk down several blocks to the park with our signs, and then we will walk back. And I said, whoa, what sign is yours? And so he shows me this sign, and it says, the Second Amendment. They were talking about muskets. And then he goes through this whole thing about how long it takes to load a musket. Showing me about tamping down the gunpowder and things like that. He said, this is not just a school issue. So you guys need to know, you have 10-year-olds behind you.
That family is smarter than Chris Tudor this week.
Knew that was coming. Oh, yes, right there. I've skipped over you twice, I'm sorry.
I need to know something about how the thing is formed nationally. Are you in touch with any other group of students? Do you stay in touch with them to kind of invigorate what you're trying to do? Is there anything like that going on, or is it all of you in individual groups?
So the Parkland kids are like the ones organizing a lot of the walkouts, and they like post it on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, and then other people share it. So like through social media, that's why we're able to get so many people we don't know involved, because it's like such a widespread thing people use, so a lot of people find out through that.
For the town hall, we also worked with the Amador kids, so it's more of just like local groups kind of coming together to make an impact on like our community and at least District 4.
All of us here are in a group chat, and I'll say that almost every day there's a new idea of what we can do to keep this moving. So I feel like all of us are trying to, keep this going and stuff.
Yeah, nice.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on what she said. I live in San Francisco. I'm up here a lot. I've been up here for years. But in San Francisco, I can volunteer for the Democratic Party. I can support the students. It doesn't make any difference. They're all Democrats down here. And I'm spitting in the wind. So I'm so happy to find this. I'm going to volunteer up here. I spend a lot of time up here. We own property up here. I want to be part of this community. And what you're doing is much more important because you are standing up as a small group, and that's hard. And that's why I really think what you're doing is amazing. It's hard when you hear this, you're not in an echo chamber. You get a lot of pushback. But you probably change a lot more minds than you think. There are other kids who maybe are afraid to say it out loud, but they're starting to hear what you say, and this is how we're going to make a change. Thank you.
I'm mildly disturbed that you're getting threatened with detention. I'm not real familiar with the walk-up, but were you threatened with detention if you participated in the walk-up? That's probably a rhetorical.
Okay, so the way the walk-up worked was when we walked out on the 14th, we got to like go out onto the football field, and he changed it so it was during our break. And he basically was like, okay, everybody now needs to meet 17 new people. All right, well,
And who is he?
Our principal, Mr. Paul.
I see.
Yeah.
So it's a suggestion from an old guy.
Yeah.
You are in a system now, and you have school board members, you have principals, you have superintendents, work the system. So if I'm not mistaken, the walkouts that you participated in were specific events. So get them sanctioned. If you need our help to do it, we'll help you. We'll go to board meetings for you, and we'll champion your cause. So work the system you're involved in to see if you can get our little red county to turn a little more purple.
One back, way in the back, and then one right. Come here.
That's perfect for what I was going to say. Are any of you planning on running for the school board liaison for your schools?
Yeah, the high school.
I would suggest that you do, because my daughter did, and it's safe to say that her politics were very different than the board's were. And she still writes letters to them from college, and I think they're listening. So you guys would all be amazing. And I would suggest that you run that. And if you don't know what it is, it's like kind of your eyes looking at each other. It's sort of the contact between your schools and the board. And you go to meetings, and it helps with college applications too. So that's just a little side note. But I just wanted to tell you that I think they are going to listen to you if you consider that.
I know that we do have like a little small group of students that is going to our board from my high school to talk to them, and I've heard like they gave a presentation, and I've heard pretty good things and pretty good response from it.
Great. Okay.
And right here. Yeah.
Hi, I was the Democratic Central Committee of our county on the Candidates Development Committee, so this question is loaded in that direction. I watched young people grow up and move into political life, and I've got a half good talent for spotting leadership, and you 8 individuals have demonstrated leadership. And so I guess my question to you is, do any of you plan on getting into political life, run for office, get into a position where you can change society Any of you?
Possibly. I plan on getting my degree in poli-sci and then going from there.
So I think I had a very similar experience as Annika did. Speaking for myself, like I always thought I wanted to go in the STEM field when I was older. I was always very interested in science and math. And the last year, I think my views have definitely changed. I actually always told myself I wasn't going to major in poli-sci. That wasn't something I was going to do because I didn't want to get into politics. I was like, all the politicians are corrupt. I'm not doing that. I don't want to be part of that group. And I think we got back from DC, and in part of my interview with Sean, I said like, I could see myself doing this, and I definitely think that's something, like, I'm going to major in poli-sci, whether they're going to law or politics after that, who knows, but I definitely think that this is something I want to do for the rest of my life.
While I was on the trip, I've always been like medicine, pre-med, and my cousin, actually I got to see him over there because he's in Washington, D.C., and he was an intern for Eric Swalwell, and but I saw him graduate from Berkeley with a poli-sci degree, and like I didn't really know too much about it, but this trip like it just showed me a lot more of what poli-sci was, and it definitely has made me reconsider. I don't know yet, I really don't know yet, but it's definitely like an option that I'm seriously considering, and yeah.
Anyone else?
I'd just like to talk to the two girls that were thinking about becoming scientists, and you can still go into politics even if you're scientists, and we need scientists in politics.
True.
Yeah. Many anti-science people as we have in Congress.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else? Scott, and then over here.
First thing I just want to say is I want to thank every one of you for what you're doing, and I personally believe your generation is going to change this world. I've been watching, all over the country. I have a friend from Brooklyn, New York. Her 6th grade daughter walked out with 5,000 strong the other day. Thank you. I just can't thank you enough for what you're doing, especially in this county.
Yeah.
And people, your teachers, your principals try to tell you that walkouts don't have power, or you shouldn't do them. Well, don't listen to that. I've been a union member for 39 years, and when you walk off the job and go on strike, I tell you what, that gets the people power, that gets their attention. So keep doing your walkouts, stay strong, and I'm with it. Whatever you need from me, I'm with you.
We've got two. Go up front here, and then Jamie, and then we'll go Michael after that.
Okay, so like 3 years ago, I went to Dorado, and there were students who would fly Confederate flags on their trucks. So my question is, how do you deal with students who maybe still do that and also who eat Tide Pods? Do you feel like more superior to them, or do you like, I don't know, how do you feel walking next to them at school?
You just don't deal with them, pretty much. You have to let them do their own thing, otherwise you're just going to get in a big argument. That's the real problem. Is if you share your political views at school, it's kind of people give you crap about it. So.
Yeah, I go to Oak Ridge, but there's a kid who, I'm pretty sure he wears it every single day that says ban idiots, not guns. My friend just is like, just keep walking, it's all okay. And that's just kind of how we go with that.
There's this one kid who went to my school who kind of like started talking to me about it and like got in this huge argument with me and was like, well, you're not even like gonna help, like you're not old enough. And I was like, well, you're not either. And he was like, well, I'm just trying to like save you, because if you ban guns, the government's gonna attack us. And I was like, but when have you had to use your gun to like attack the government and save yourselves? And he was like, well, I haven't yet. And I was like, then you're not doing anything. So I think most of the time, like, you can try to talk to them about it, but they don't really know what they're talking about a lot of the time.
And it's also kind of interesting because after the whole march happened, someone posted on Snapchat, when are you going to walk out about bombs? And I confronted them and I was like, what are you even talking about? Like, bombs are illegal. And they just kind of shut down. And so I think it's a lot of almost a power thing, but like if you go and talk to them, like it's hard to find a solid argument for a lot of it. They'll just keep denying it, and at that point, you have to kind of agree to disagree.
I haven't personally like dealt with it because I go to a private school, but I feel like we know we're right. Like we're doing the right thing, and I feel like having someone like come up and like try and like argue about it with you and like debate with you, like you just have to walk away. Like they're not gonna stop, and neither are we. So what's the point of like arguing with them? Like we know we're doing the right thing and we're trying to save lives. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, kind of building on that and going back to what you said originally, you know. If someone had a Confederate flag, no, they're obviously very strong in their views, and nothing we say is going to change that. And are they keeping it in their house? No. They're flying it on their trucks like you said, and there is a reason people do that. They want other people to see it, and they want an argument, and that is an argument that you're not going to win. You're not going to win in an argument against someone like that. So if someone's doing that, they're doing it to be seen and to have an argument, and just ignore it, ignore them, like everyone said.
I think the important thing is too, though, is not wavering in your beliefs. Like, no matter how many of those people there are, for every one person that's flying a Confederate flag, there's like 9 or 10 other people that you can still convince to believe what you believe. And like, it's all about educating people. So yeah, a lot of times there are going to be those select few. There's also so many other people who just with like the right amount of education can like continue to support your cause. So I think like you have to stay strong in what you're believing, and like, yeah, there's always going to be those few, but there's always more.
Yeah.
Jamie?
I want to reiterate what a lot of people here have said, and that is thank you guys so much for what you're doing. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of determination, and I want to thank you for that. One of the things that I've noticed in this gathering here is that there is no representation from our local newspaper, the illustrious Mountain Democrat. And I think your story needs to be told. And they have an article in the Mountain Democrat called My Turn. And I would absolutely love to see you guys write something about your experience, why you're doing this, that you're not taking away their guns, that this is a matter of safety, and get more people on your side, because they do have a distribution list of about 14,000.
Read the paper tomorrow.
Yes? Yeah.
All 8 of them, each of them at the end of the trip wrote an article. And I understand they got a new features editor right about the time they got back, so it's taken a while. But I heard last week that they will be publishing all 8 stories tomorrow in the paper.
My generation, no, it wasn't. It was the third time. Your generation, you are going to end gun violence.
Michael?
Basically, you have to be the change that you want to change. I know in dealing with this, you have to deal with your friends, but the liberating thing is you got to be with 850,000 people, you got that wave, and you brought it back with you. How have you gotten members in your family that might not have been as on board with you? Have you gotten them involved as well?
I think making it personal, because a lot of people have their viewpoints and they're strong in them, and maybe they're more on like the don't take my guns away kind of side. But when you sit down and you talk to them, and like I know my grandparents, like they're pretty hardcore Republican, but when I came back from the march, like I talked to my Oma, and when I started to speak to her about the kids who were up there and that there were 11-year-olds speaking and that these kids faced it every day and that these mass shootings are happening and they aren't going to stop unless we do something and that there is literally nothing stopping us from being next. And like making it personal. Like this could be us. Like do you really want to lose a child, a grandchild, a sibling? Because unless we take action, it could be us.
So I think a big thing that, I'll try to do with people who are more pro-gun is kind of meet them in the middle and say, all right, if we're not going to take away guns, what's a solution? What do you think is a good solution we can do to, end gun violence? If it's not taking away guns, is it raising the age to 21 to get a gun? A lot of people who are pro-gun know a lot more about guns than I do. So they definitely, can help with the problem. So.
Anyone else? All right. Well, I would just like to, again, to stand up. Let's give them a round of applause.
Register, vote, and volunteer.